I, M35, have been married to my wife Carol, F33, for about 6 years now. We don't have any kids, as Carol isn't ready for them yet. I've brought up the topic of children a few times over the years, but she always said she wanted to focus on her career first. I respected her decision, even though I've always dreamed of being a father. Carol and I met during our sophomore year in college. We were both part of a study group for our advanced economics class. I remember the first time I saw her walk into the library, her arms full of books, and a determined look on her face. She had this air of confidence about her that immediately caught my attention. During our study sessions, I was constantly amazed by Carol's intelligence and wit. She had this unique way of breaking down complex economic theories that made them easy for everyone to understand. I found myself looking forward to our study group meetings more and more, not for the economics, but for the chance to spend time with her. It wasn't until our senior year that I finally worked up the courage to ask her out. We had our first date at a small Italian restaurant just off campus. I was so nervous I spilled my water all over the table, but Carol just laughed it off and helped me clean up. That's when I knew she was special. After graduation, we both landed jobs in the city. Carol started as a junior marketing executive at a tech startup, while I began my career as a software engineer at a large corporation. We got married 2 years later in a small ceremony surrounded by our closest friends and family. Our relationship has always been solid. We communicate well, support each other's careers, and enjoy spending time together. Over the years, Carol has climbed the corporate ladder and is now a senior marketing executive at a major tech company. I'm still in software engineering, having moved to a more challenging role at a different firm a few years ago. One of the things I love about Carol is how understanding she is. She knows I need my space sometimes, so she's always been okay with me going out with my friends on weekends. I have this group of guys I've known since high school, Jake, Tom, and Matt. Every Saturday, we meet up at our local bar, the Rusty Nail, to catch up over a few drinks. The Rusty Nail has been our go-to spot for years. It's this cozy little place with dark wood paneling and old rock posters on the walls. The owner, Joe, knows us all by name and always has our usual drinks ready when we arrive. It's the kind of place where everyone feels like family. Last Saturday started like any other. I met the guys at the bar around 8 p.m. Jake was telling us about his latest adventure in online dating. Tom was complaining about his new boss, and Matt was showing off pictures of his new puppy. We were having a great time, sharing stories and laughing. A few hours in, this guy I'd never seen before came up to our table. He introduced himself as Mike and asked if he could join us. We were all in a good mood, so we welcomed him. Mike seemed like a cool guy. He was funny and had some interesting stories about his job as a travel photographer. As the night went on, he offered to buy a round for everyone. I remember thinking how nice that was for a stranger to do. After that, things get fuzzy. I vaguely recall stumbling out of the bar, but I have no idea how I got home. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in a strange bed, in a room I didn't recognize. My head was pounding, and I felt disoriented. As I slowly became more aware, I realized there was someone else in the bed. It was a woman I'd never seen before. She was still asleep, her long blonde hair spread across the pillow. I felt a wave of panic wash over me as I realized what must have happened. I quickly got out of bed, trying not to wake her. My clothes were scattered on the floor, and I hastily put them on. The woman stirred and opened her eyes. She looked as confused as I felt. I apologized profusely, telling her I was married, and that this was a huge mistake. She seemed understanding, if a bit hurt. She told me her name was Allison, and that we'd met at the bar last night. Apparently, I'd been extremely drunk, and she'd offered to let me crash at her place, since I couldn't remember where I lived. With shaking hands, I checked my phone. My heart sank when I saw the screen. 37 missed calls from Carol, 15 from Jake, and numerous text messages asking where I was. It was already 10 a.m. I rushed out of Allison's apartment, barely remembering to grab my wallet and keys. I called an Uber and headed home, my mind racing with how I was going to explain this to Carol. I'd never cheated before, never even thought about it. I loved my wife and couldn't believe I'd done something so stupid. As the Uber drove through the city, memories of my relationship with Carol flashed through my mind. Our first date, the night I proposed on the beach under a full moon, our wedding day. How could I have risked all of that for one drunken night? When I got home, Carol was a mess. She'd been up all night, worried sick. She'd called hospitals and even the police. As soon as she saw me, she burst into tears, alternating between relief that I was okay and anger that I'd disappeared. I knew I had to tell her the truth. I sat her down on our living room couch, the same couch where we'd spent countless nights cuddling and watching movies. I confessed everything, or at least what I could remember. I told her about waking up in a stranger's bed, about how I had no memory of how I got there or what happened. I apologized over and over, telling her how much I loved her, and how this was the biggest mistake of my life. To my surprise, Carol's anger seemed to deflate as I spoke. She was quiet for a long time after I finished. Then, she asked me a lot of questions about the night, most of which I couldn't answer because of my memory loss. Finally, she said she believed it was a one-time mistake and that she forgave me. I was shocked. I had expected her to be furious, to kick me out, maybe even ask for a divorce. Instead, she was being incredibly understanding. She said our marriage was stronger than one drunken mistake and that we'd work through this together. Over the next few days, I was in a daze. I felt incredibly guilty and couldn't understand why Carol was being so forgiving. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for her to change her mind and leave me. But she didn't. She was supportive and kind, telling me we'd get past this. I decided I needed to do something to show Carol how much she meant to me. I planned a surprise for her, hoping to start making amends for my horrible mistake. I took off work early on Wednesday, picked up a bouquet of her favorite flowers, pink peonies, and ordered takeout from the Italian restaurant where we had our first date. I got home around 4 p.m., expecting Carol to still be at work. But as I approached our front door, I heard noises coming from inside. Thinking Carol might have come home early too, I quietly opened the door, wanting to surprise her. What I saw next will be forever burned into my memory. Carol was on our living room couch with another man. They were so engrossed in what they were doing that they didn't even notice me come in. I stood there, frozen. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My wife, the woman I loved more than anything in the world, was cheating on me. In our home, on the couch we'd picked out together when we first moved in. I don't know how long I stood there, but eventually, I snapped out of my shock and quietly backed out of the house. I got in my car and just drove, no destination in mind. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of what I'd just witnessed. I ended up at a park across town. It was the same park where Carol and I used to have picnics when we were first dating. I sat on a bench, staring at nothing, for hours. As the initial shock wore off, I started to feel angry. Not just at Carol, but at myself too. How could I have been so blind? How long had this been going on? I knew I needed to confront Carol, but I wasn't ready yet. I needed time, to think, to plan what I was going to say. So I checked into a hotel for the night. I turned off my phone, not wanting to deal with any calls or messages from Carol. The next morning, I went back to our house, steeling myself for the confrontation. Carol was there, looking worried. She asked where I'd been, saying she'd been calling me all night. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on me. I told her what I'd seen. Her face went pale, and she started crying, begging me to let her explain. But I didn't want to hear it. I packed a bag and left, telling her I needed some time to think. I'm writing this from my friend Jake's spare room. I don't know what to do next. My whole world has been turned upside down. I thought Carol and I had a good marriage. I thought she was the one person I could always trust. Now, I don't know what to believe anymore. I'm not sure what my next steps should be. Should I try to work things out with Carol? Should I just file for divorce? And how do I even begin to trust anyone again after this? Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1. It's been a week since my last post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. It really helped me get through some dark days. After spending a few days at Jake's place, I decided I needed to talk to Carol and get some answers. I texted her and asked her to meet me at a neutral location, a coffee shop we used to frequent. It was a small, cozy place where we'd spent many Sunday mornings during the early years of our relationship, sipping lattes and planning our future together. Now, it felt like a remnant of a life that no longer existed. When I saw Carol, she looked terrible. Her eyes were red and puffy. Part of me felt bad for her, but then I remembered what she'd done. We sat down at a table in the corner, away from the other patrons. The cheerful chatter and the smell of fresh coffee felt surreal given the gravity of our conversation. I asked her to explain herself. What she told me left me speechless. According to Carol, she'd been having an affair for the past 6 months. The man I saw her with was named Mike, the same Mike who had bought our group drinks at the bar that fateful night. Carol confessed that she and Mike had planned the whole thing. They knew I always went to the Rusty Nail on Saturdays, so they decided to use that to their advantage. Mike introduced himself to our group and then spiked my drink when I wasn't looking. Their plan was for me to cheat, so that when Carol's affair eventually came to light, she could use my infidelity as leverage. As Carol spoke, memories of that night came flooding back. I remembered Mike's friendly demeanor, how he'd seemed so interested in our conversation, how he'd insisted on buying that round of drinks. It all made sense now, in the most horrifying way possible. I asked her why she didn't just ask for a divorce if she was unhappy. She said she was afraid of losing her comfortable lifestyle. She knew that if she cheated and I found out, I might leave her with nothing. But if she had evidence of me cheating too, she thought she could negotiate a better settlement. I felt sick to my stomach. The woman sitting across from me was a stranger. This wasn't the Carol I fell in love with. The Carol who'd stood beside me at the altar and promised to love and cherish me. This was someone calculating and cruel, someone who'd manipulated me in the worst possible way. I got up and left without another word, ignoring Carol's pleas for me to stay and talk more. I walked aimlessly through the city streets, my mind reeling from what I'd just learned. How could someone I'd loved for so long betray me so completely? The next day, I went back to the Rusty Nail. I needed to confirm Carol's story. I talked to the owner, Joe, who I've known for years. Joe's more than just a bartender to us regulars. He's a friend, someone who celebrated our successes and commiserated with our failures over countless beers. I explained the situation to Joe and he was horrified. He immediately agreed to help and led me to the back room where they keep the security footage. We spent hours going through the tapes from that night. Sure enough, we found clear evidence of Mike slipping something into my drink. We also saw Carol there, watching from a distance, as Mike chatted with our group. The footage showed me becoming visibly intoxicated very quickly after drinking the spiked drink. It also captured Mike helping me out of the bar, with Carol following at a distance. Watching it all unfold on the grainy security footage felt surreal, like I was watching a movie about someone else's life. I asked Joe for a copy of the footage, which he provided. As I was leaving, Joe put a hand on my shoulder and told me how sorry he was. He said the Rusty Nail would always be a safe place for me if I needed it. His kindness nearly broke me, and I had to hurry out before I lost my composure. Over the next few days, I did a lot of thinking. I walked through the park where Carol and I used to have picnics, drove past the restaurant where we had our first date, sat on the beach where I'd proposed. Each place held memories that now felt tainted. I realized that I couldn't stay married to someone who would go to such lengths to deceive me. Carol had not only cheated, but had also put my health at risk by having me drugged. I couldn't forgive. That level of betrayal. I contacted a lawyer and filed for divorce. When I told Carol, she broke down crying, begging me to reconsider. She said she loved me and that we could work things out. But I knew that the trust between us was irreparably broken. The Carol I loved was gone, if she had ever really existed at all. My lawyer advised me to keep the video evidence to myself for now. He said it could be useful if Carol tried to contest the divorce or ask for alimony. As for Mike, I decided not to confront him. My lawyer advised against it, saying it could potentially complicate the divorce proceedings. But I did file a police report about the drugging incident. The police are investigating, but they said it might be hard to prove anything after so much time has passed. I'm still staying at Jake's place. I can't bear to go back to the house Carol and I shared. Too many memories, too much pain. Jake has been an incredible friend through all of this. He's let me crash on his couch, listened to me vent, and even helped me start looking for a new apartment. I'm taking things one day at a time. Some days are better than others. I still have moments where I miss the life I thought I had with Carol. But then I remind myself of what she did, and I know I'm making the right decision. I'm focusing on myself now. I've started seeing a therapist to help me process everything. I'm throwing myself into my work and trying to reconnect with old friends I'd lost touch with over the years. I know I have a long road ahead of me. Divorce is never easy, and the betrayal I've experienced has left deep scars. But I'm determined to come out of this stronger. I deserve better than what Carol did to me, and I'm going to make sure I find it. Thank you all again for your support. I'll update again when there are new developments. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update, and I wanted to share some developments in my situation. The divorce proceedings are underway. Carol initially tried to contest it, claiming that my one-night stand was grounds for her to receive alimony. That's when my lawyer presented the video evidence of her and Mike's plot. Carol's face went pale when she realized we had proof of what she'd done. I'll never forget the look on her face in that moment. It was a mixture of shock, fear, and maybe even a bit of shame. For a brief second, I saw a flicker of the Carol I used to know, the one who would feel guilty about telling even the smallest lie. But that Carol disappeared as quickly as she had appeared, replaced by the calculating woman I'd come to know over the past month. After that, Carol became much more cooperative in the divorce proceedings. She agreed to an equitable split of our assets and didn't push for alimony. I think she realized how badly things could go for her if the full story came out. As we went through the process of dividing our life together, I was hit with waves of nostalgia and sadness, deciding who would keep which books, which pieces of furniture, which photos. It felt like dismantling the life we'd built together piece by piece. There was the coffee table we'd bought on our first anniversary, the set of wine glasses we'd received as a wedding gift, the painting we'd picked up on our trip to Paris. Each item held a memory, and letting go of them felt like letting go of a part of myself. As for Mike, the police investigation is ongoing. They're taking the drugging incident seriously, especially since we have video evidence. Mike could be facing some serious charges. Part of me feels satisfied that he might face consequences for his actions, but another part just feels tired of the whole situation. I've moved out of Jake's place and into my own apartment. It's small, but it's mine, and it's a fresh start. The first night I spent there was tough. The silence was deafening, and the empty spaces where our shared belongings used to be seemed to mock me. But as the days passed, I started to make the place my own. I bought new furniture, hung up some art I've always liked but Carol wasn't fond of, and even got a small plant to take care of. I'm slowly rebuilding my life piece by piece. I've been going to the gym regularly, which has been great for managing stress and helping me sleep better. The physical exertion helps clear my mind, and I've found that the endorphin rush after a good workout does wonders for my mood. Work has been a good distraction. I've thrown myself into a new project, which has been keeping me busy and focused. It's a challenging assignment, developing a new software platform for a major client. The complexity of the work requires all my attention, leaving little room for dwelling on my personal problems during the day. My boss has been understanding about the whole situation and has given me some flexibility with my hours when I need it for lawyer meetings or therapy appointments. His support has been invaluable, and it's made me realize how important it is to have a good work environment. Speaking of therapy, it's been really helpful. My therapist, Dr. Anderson, has been working with me on processing my feelings of betrayal and anger. She's teaching me techniques to manage my emotions and helping me understand that what happened wasn't my fault. We're also working on rebuilding my self-esteem and learning to trust again, which is probably the hardest part of all this. I've also started reconnecting with old friends and making new ones. I joined a local hiking group, which has been great for getting me out of the house on weekends. Last Saturday, we hiked up to Eagle's Peak. The view from the top was breathtaking, and for a moment, standing there with my new friends, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in a long time. It's nice to be around people who don't know my whole story, who just see me, not as the guy whose wife cheated on him. In the hiking group, I'm just another guy who enjoys the outdoors. It's refreshing, and it's helping me rediscover parts of myself that I'd forgotten about during my marriage. There are still tough days, of course. Sometimes I'll see something that reminds me of Carol, or I'll have a dream about our life together, and it hits me all over again. Last week, I found an old photo of us from our honeymoon tucked away in a book. Seeing our smiling faces, so full of hope and love, brought back a flood of emotions. But these moments are becoming less frequent and less intense. I'm starting to look towards the future now. For the first time in a long time, I'm excited about what might come next. Maybe I'll take that trip to Japan I've always wanted to do. Carol was never interested in going, always preferring beach vacations, but now I can plan the trip I've always dreamed of. I've started learning some basic Japanese phrases and researching the best times to see the cherry blossoms. I'm also thinking about picking up some old hobbies I'd let fall by the wayside during my marriage. I used to love playing the guitar, and I'm considering taking lessons again. And who knows, maybe I'll finally write that novel I've been thinking about for years. I have an idea for a story that's been rattling around in my head for a while now. The future is wide open, and while that's scary sometimes, it's also exhilarating. I'm learning to embrace the uncertainty and see it as an opportunity rather than a threat. To everyone who's been following my story and offering support, thank you. Your kind words and advice have meant more to me than you could know. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's the importance of having good people in your life. I'm grateful for all of you. I think this will be my last update for a while. I'm ready to close this chapter of my life and start writing a new one. There's still a long road ahead, and I know there will be more challenges to face. But for the first time in months, I'm feeling hopeful about what lies ahead. Life has a way of surprising us, both with its challenges and its opportunities. I'm looking forward to seeing what surprises are in store for me next. Wish me luck.